Welcome to the Underground.
Turn me up, bitch!
My Little Underground with Peter A.
So, I know Ricky's Compass is all about giving certain people who are struggling with mental health a platform. And you had a web series on YouTube not too long ago. Was it Diagnosed?
Diagnosed but not defined.
Not defined. Okay, what happened with that? And why hasn't anything happened in
a
year?
I know it's been so bad. The other two girls in Ricky's Compass, they were in school. The one just graduated, the other one's in school, and she is student teaching. And at the beginning, this year was hard for me. There was, work struggles and that whole thing. A lot of new things in my life. So, and I was the one, I went to school for broadcast journalism, so I was the one who did all the editing. So it was hard because although Melissa helps, it was hard to try and find time for it. But that right now is on our list of kind of starting it up again. Basically what we did was, again, we wanted to give people a platform to share their stories because it's not a counseling session, but it's like a session for them to just talk. And some people just want to talk about what they're going through. And then at the same time, it also helps people that are watching understand, A, if they're struggling, they're not alone because this person is struggling as well. And B, for people who aren't struggling, it kind of puts a face to the illness. Meaning for me, I'll go back to, my relationship with Ricky. Now I know, okay, he had schizophrenia, bipolar type. But he was still a big brother to me, basically. And he still helped me in everything. So for me, knowing somebody that had schizophrenia, it makes schizophrenia a little less scary to me. Because if you don't know somebody, sometimes you're just check them off as crazy and ignore that person on the street. But when you're able to kind of put a face to the illness, it's like humanizing them. And so that was the point of it. So we wanted people to see wow, these are normal people struggling. As normal, I think normal is just subjective and we're all a little abnormal and that's okay.
Yep.
But so we definitely were reaching out to people that we knew personally that we knew would feel comfortable sharing their stories. So now it's just a matter of finding more people who want to share their stories and then just finding time to film and edit. And that was our big struggle, was just finding the time. But it's definitely on our list of things to continue to do now that our, last event is over and that planning is done. So we're just kind of in a planning phase right now of figuring out who to interview, when, and the next event.
So what are some other kind of methods to give people a platform to share their experiences that's not a YouTube video or anything kind of media-centric?
Yeah, so we also, people can always reach out to us and just talk and, share their stories, and they can even, journal and stuff if they want to get it out of their own head, but maybe they don't feel comfortable sharing it with other people. At the same time, if they do want to reach out to us, we do talk at different schools and stuff like that, and we want to do kind of like a town hall type of thing where we have almost like a panel. And so if somebody wants to share their story and in front of people like that, by all means, reach out and we'll try and figure out how we can help you share your story, because it does help others and it helps themselves as well. Or if they just want to chat, it depends. Do you mean with us specifically sharing their stories or just sharing their stories for us specific?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so by all means, reach out to us, write us a letter, send us an email, reach out to us on social media if you really want. On occasion, if we do have a friendship, whatever, if you have my number, shoot me a text, call me, whatever. But so if they feel comfortable where they want to be a part of one of our events, we're all for that. So we did our Mental Health and Wellness Expo in September, and we had people sharing their stories, and we're all for that. Talk to us and we'll figure out how we can incorporate you into our event, and so that you have that platform to speak. Or, just reach out and we'll figure out where we can place you so that you feel comfortable sharing your story, even if it's maybe not online.
I think, yeah, that's awesome that you're kind of like just kind of opening up your arms.
It's all about just
people.
hugging people and give them that safe space.
So, the school lectures, like what schools did you go to? Did you go high schools, colleges, what?
So we've been to 2 schools so far. So it was Morristown High School because Ricky went there for, I think, up through freshman and actually maybe through junior year, because we went to a private school together his senior year through my church, of course. But yeah, so Morristown High School, we talked to parents. So we had met somebody at our first event that we hosted. So that was September of 2018. And she did like this parent club thing. I forget the exact name of it, but it's like parents meet and they talk about what's going on in school, whatever. And so they were talking about mental health, and we ended up going in one day and giving a whole presentation to the parents specifically, kind of telling them what we do, but also showing them, signs to be aware of and stuff like that among their teens. And then we also spoke at Kane University. Their Greek Life invited us out. This was I think October of 2018 when we went to Kane University. That's a college in Jersey. And we had gone out and we gave a presentation, and that was it was during mental health awareness week. And we just spoke about what we were doing and just kind of the importance of, speaking up and speaking out, and the importance of mental health. So those are the 2 places that we spoke at, just because we have connections there. So Melissa, this CEO of Ricky's Compass and Ricky's sister, she goes to Kane, and she also went to Morristown High School, and obviously he's from there. So that's it so far. I do want to branch out into my town, so Montville, and then we're also working with another friend. A friend of ours died by suicide as well in, I think December of, I think it was the year after Ricky. I can't remember the exact date. It's escaping me. Actually, I think it was January of 2018. So it was after Ricky, but before our event. And it was a lot going on those couple months. But his mom started an organization as well, and so we've been teaming up with her. We want to do a walk and that kind of thing. So she's from the Bloomfield area, so she's been focusing on that. And so we would love to just kind of get around and talk to as many people as we can, and as many schools as we can, because it's important. That's where, unfortunately, the onset of, I think it's like, I could be wrong on the statistic, but I think it's like 95% of chronic mental illnesses, the onset is between like 14 and 26-year-olds. So really, high school and college years are essential to kind of maintain your mental health and focus on that and
it's the
be
pressure
aware
to succeed.
Of it. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
100%.
It's the fear of failure. When you're a senior or junior in high school, they're just shoving this stuff down your throat. You have to meet with counselors about colleges and SATs, which are fucking pointless. I should have never taken that shit at all. It was a waste of time.
Honestly.
I took SAT prep, waste of my time. I learned some few words. I learned words, but I don't remember any of the words.
Yeah.
So it was totally a waste of my time. But yeah, I mean, speaking of, young people, people in our demographic and younger, going to colleges and going to high schools, like what are some of the responses that you've gotten from some of the students that you've seen or may have talked to? Yeah,
like specifically about mental health? Like what?
Yeah,
what have they
after
talked about
your lectures and stuff.
Yeah, so they've been very open, and actually, a Spanish class from Morristown, part of their project that year was to, I think, focus on a nonprofit and raise money for them and do whatever. And so a Spanish class from Morristown focused on us, and they were so aware, and so they just wanted to learn as much as they could about mental health. And it's like, how does you're learning how to speak Spanish and mental health, like how does that correlate? I don't know, but they were so aware. Like, it's awesome that, it doesn't matter. Like, we talked to, I think, an English class recently. Melissa went at Morristown. We've been there a couple of times. So they've all been so open, and all they want to do is take it all in because they are struggling, and they kind of want that reassurance, like it's okay to not know what you want to do. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to realize that you're 14, 15, 16, but yeah, you do have a big weight on your shoulders. Like, it's normal to feel that way. I think so, because a lot of times, like, adults, I love my parents and all that, but a lot of times older people just kind of, they're like, oh, you're a high schooler, like this is the time of your life, like what could you possibly
this is the
going
best time
through?
of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Bullshit.
Right.
High school was like horrible.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, I can't say like it was totally horrible, but it was, I didn't love high school. It's not the best time. You can't do anything. You know what I mean? I mean, look, I'm very grateful for everything, but it's like, I don't know. It's just the very beginning. You're still learning. You're still kind of stupid in a way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is not like the prime of your life. It's not. I mean, It's a time where it's like you're not really held accountable for a lot of things. But to me, all the fun started after I graduated high school. You know what I mean? And life hasn't even begun yet. You know what I mean?
Right. I think it's just absolutely. I think it's just we're there to kind of reiterate to these high schoolers, to these, young college students, that like it's okay to feel like you're going through a moment of hell. Like, it's okay to not feel good, to be struggling and stuff. And a lot of times they just ask, like, they ask about different types of mental illnesses. They ask about how they can kind of help and get involved. We've had a lot of young people volunteer, and everybody is like always willing to help out, which is really cool because, people have things going on in their lives. They don't always want to wake up early on a Saturday to come help at an event, whatever. But they're always willing to help, and they're eager to learn about mental health and mental illnesses as well, and just how to kind of maintain good mental health. All they want to do is, soak it all in. They're sponges, and they just soak up all the information, which is really cool. Because, they know that a lot of people are struggling their age. And if they're not, chances are one of their friends are. So they're so eager and excited to just figure out what's going on and to learn as much as they can about mental health in general.
Yeah, and I think that, because I know some people, and I've experienced this for myself, when you turn 18, you leave high school, and there's this kind of thing where you're supposed to have everything figured out. You're supposed to know what you're majoring in. You're supposed to know what you want to do for a living at 18 years old. Think about that. In
Insane.
retrospect, that's like, you're 18 years old. You can barely drive. You can't even drink at a bar. How are you supposed to know what you want to do for the rest of your life at that moment? That's crazy. And that's why some people I know like dropped out of school because they're like, one, they probably can't pay for it, and two, they're just like, they don't know what they want to do, or they don't see a point in it, But I think there's this, we have to like kind of alleviate some of the pressure.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I know people that are in their early 20s that are like, man, I'm just mad that I didn't graduate when I wanted to graduate. I'm like, slow down. Go at your own pace. And I felt that I needed to have everything figured out by the time I turned 20. You know what I mean? And I thought, man, I should have my own place when I'm 20. Like, no, just go at your own pace. You know what I mean?
No, I completely agree. I think we grew up where the whole focus was figure out your major, figure out your career, pick a really good college that you want to go to, and go get out and do it. And now, after that, graduate in 4 years, make sure you have a really good internship, make sure you get good grades, make sure you get a career.
Network.
Exactly. Make sure you get a career as soon as you graduate, move out of the house, and figure it out, and you're good to go. No, that's not the way it works. We put we expect people to have it all figured out, and now we're realizing like that's not it. It took my sister's older than me, and she graduated I think a year after me, because she did, she went the county college route, which was the best route for her. She took some time off, figured out what she wanted to do. I always kind of knew what I wanted to do or thought I knew what I wanted to do. So I had it all figured out. You know, I was going to go and study this and major in this and get a career in this. Meanwhile, it's not exactly working out the way I thought. But that's the thing. Like, so I graduated in 4 years. Big deal. My sister, you know, she did like I said, the county college route. Did fine. Graduated a little bit later from that. Took time off. Worked. Went back to school, finished her degree, and, you know, now she's working again. No big deal. Everybody has to realize that it's okay to go at their own pace. Because I remember even with me, like, I must have been a freshman in college, and I was so overwhelmed. Again, I thought I knew what I wanted to do since, like, freshman year of high school. Like, I thought I knew everything. Everything seemed to be laid out in front of me of what I was going to do. And I just remember coming home from school. I commuted. I came home. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my mom, and I was so overwhelmed. I was working and, you know, going to school full time, and I was driving 30 minutes to school, 30 minutes home, 30 minutes to work, 30 minutes home. So there's 2 hours of my day wasted right there in driving, plus school, plus work. I just felt like I wasn't doing anything that I actually wanted to do. But I was only doing things that I thought I had to do. And I was just overwhelmed, venting to my mom, and she's like, Lex. Meanwhile, like, school was always semi-easy for me. Like, that was something that, like, that was my thing, kind of. And so I was all about graduating in 4 years. And she's like, Lex, if this is too much for you, if this isn't what you want to do, take a semester off. I felt like that was not the way the conversation was going to roll out, because they were always all about school, my parents. But to have that kind of reassurance, like, it's okay, take a step to just breathe, to figure things out. Like, you're still young. I think I was 18 at the time. Like, I graduated young. I was, you know, one of the younger kids in my grade, whatever. So she's like, Lex, you're fine. Like, just take a minute to just breathe, relax, and figure out what you want to do. Just having that reassurance from my mom was like a huge weight lifted off my shoulder. And I just kind of was like, okay, it's like, just take it day by day, figure it out. Like, it's not, you don't need to have your entire life planned out. It's okay to just go with the flow. So I think it's important, you know, I think that's what people need to realize, especially younger kids. Like, we put so much pressure on them to figure it all out. No, relax, breathe. Because a lot of times, like, most people that graduate, and, you know, they graduate in 4 years, they think everything's working out, whatever.
They don't do nothing.
They do nothing that's related to their major, which is fine. Like, no judgment, but, like, why?
Yeah.
Like, because we feel like we have to have it all planned out, and then we take all these classes. Oh my God, I don't even like what I'm taking, but I'm already almost done with school, so why am I going to change it? And I'm just going to continue on in my life and either be miserable or do something else that I actually enjoy, but had nothing to do with what I learned.
When I was a freshman in college, I thought, you know what? Yeah, I want to be a physician's assistant. My mom was telling me, she was like, yeah, you should be a PA. I'm like, okay. No idea what a physician's assistant does. No idea what it did. And I knew it's not really a doctor. Still had no idea. I didn't bother to research it at all. And then I realized when I was in college, taking a bunch of, gen ed classes, I'm like, I hate science. Really hate science. I hate biology. I hate chemistry. I just thought about high school. I'm like, I didn't like chemistry at all. Like, why would I do this for a career? I have to do 8 years of this shit? No way. So, I discovered college radio. I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is who I am. And, did I kind of feel like, okay, I needed to figure this shit out right now. I need to have a major right now, but it just kind of fell into my lap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what, let me just give this a try. And, I'm much happier for it. Because again, I had no idea what a physician's assistant does. Why do I give a shit? I don't want to do this. I don't want to take the MCAT. I don't like standardized tests. I took the SAT once, and I'm like, I never want to do this again. And I kind of contemplated going to grad school, but I don't want to take the GRE. I don't want to pay for school all over again. For what? Nah, fam. Nope. I know people that like just. I need to do this. I need to do that. I have to do this. I'm like, why do you have to do anything? Mm-hmm. You don't have to do a goddamn thing. I don't know, man. We gotta do something. Like people, our parents' generation, not our parents specifically, but our parents' generation, like millennials. You're all entitled. You're entitled. I'm like, You know what we want? This is what I want. I want to be able to have a job and pay for a place to live, you know, and not drown in student debt. That's what I want. You know what I mean? That's it. I don't need to have everything kind of just laid out for me. No. Like, why do people think our generation just wants everything just handed to us? We don't. We want to have, you know, access to any way that we can get a full-time job. It's not easy. You know, I had high school teacher that told us, yeah, I paid my way through college. You can't do that now.
No.
You can't do that now. It's impossible. Going to college is like getting a mortgage. Even if you're going to SUNY and CUNY, you know, it's still kind of pricey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can work, $14 an hour? That's not going to pay for school. It's barely going to pay for textbooks. You know what I'm saying? So much pressure on us. You know?
There's an unbearable amount of pressure that we go through and we face nowadays, and I think that's a huge underlying cause to so many issues, because we're so focused on, like, we have to hit these major milestones at certain ages. We have to graduate at this age. We have to move out at this age, full-time career, all this stuff. But, like, that's not the case. It's not reality. And we just feel so overwhelmed, and we are literally crumbling under the pressure of what society puts on us and what society tells us we need to achieve by a certain point in our life. It's unrealistic and extremely overwhelming. It's just not fair. And I think part of the reason that, you know, the older generation is so like, oh, like millennials are entitled and stuff, I think it's because we are finally kind of figuring out like what's important, and it's not so much having like this massive house and this, you know, doctor, lawyer,
2.5 kids, you know, get a house in Levittown,
exactly,
you know?
Like,
wife stays home,
exactly, like
gets addicted to pills because husband is working 12 hours a day and they don't have sex at all, and their kids are just they don't see their parents a lot. They're, you know, they're hanging out with grandma more than often. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want that.
Right.
We don't want that at all.
Right.
You know?
I think that's what we saw. And like, thank God, me personally, I didn't experience that. Like, you know, but a lot of people our age, that was the reality for them. That was what they grew up dealing with. And so a lot of, you know, we're at that point where we're like, no, our generation doesn't want that, because it's not real happiness. It's not real joy. Like, it's just kind of going through the motions and having this pretty picture, pretty life that society says that's happiness. Like, no, we're at the point where we want to experience it for ourselves. We want jobs where we could just pay the bills, where we can live and do things that we want to enjoy.
There you
and
go.
that's
You said the golden word, live.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to live. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't need my rims to spin. Would I love a pair of rims that spin? Yes. But it's not realistic right now. You know, I just want a place to live and food. That's it.
Right.
And a steady job that we can, you know, pay the bills for right now. And I think our generation, one thing that I do love about our generation is that we're focused on what we're passionate about. That's what we put a lot of energy into. Like, you know, podcasting or making music or whatever. A lot of popular artists now are millennials. Like Cardi B is like, what, 27, 26? You know, a lot of these artists, they're young because they focus on what they want to do. And they're not just, oh, I have to work this full-time job because that's what you do and I have to get married right now. Believe me, I want to get married, but guess what? Weddings are expensive.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And buying a house and having a place to live, that costs money. We have to focus on how we're going to make money before we can do all those things. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I think we are just so past the point of living to have like this pretty seemingly perfect life where we just want to be able to live and be happy. And I almost feel like I love my parents and all, and not them specifically, but I almost feel like that generation is just a little jealous of the fact that
you're able to make money off Instagram.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That too, but we're able to just live our lives and be happy, because I feel like they were so focused on, you know, the basic milestones that we were told we needed to accomplish. And that generation was okay with just going through the phases and doing what they felt they needed to do. But we're focused more on like getting the most out of our life and just being happy and being truly happy, not, oh yeah, everything's great, I'm fine, the I'm fine response. Like, no, I'm actually enjoying my life. And I just feel like a lot of older people don't understand that, but like, that's okay, that's fine, they can do them, but like, we just want to be okay. Like, we want to be able to live our lives the way we want to.
Yep. We need to tell young people that you can do, you have to create your own path in life. I remember I went to Stony Brook University, and me and a friend of mine, we had like a little like podcasting session. We talked to kids about podcasting, and we were basically telling them, at least I was telling them, you can do whatever the fuck you want, but this is how I do it. And if you don't want to do it my way, that's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we want to tell people you can do, whatever you want in life, but just follow your own path. Yes, having a degree is going to help you get a job. But what if you don't want a job? Okay, you want to start a business? Well, this is how you do it. You know what I mean? You want to, these are the books to read to how to, hustle or whatever. And if you want to freelance, great. But guess what? When you freelance, you have to have many jobs. You have to hustle. You have to always stay on top of it. There's many ways to go about life. We have to tell people there's not one way. There's many ways, and you can go at your own pace. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Life isn't just like cookie cutter.
No.
And I think, even like when I was talking to my mom about school and figuring out what I wanted to do and stuff, she always thought of like, okay, teacher, doctor, like those are all basic jobs there were like, 5 main jobs that the older generation went into. And if you didn't go to school, then you went, straight into work and you became whatever, X, Y, or Z. Like, it was so basic. Everything kind of, the path was already laid out, and you usually followed in the steps of your parents, and whatever they did, you usually ended up doing, that kind of thing. It was like a generational thing. But nowadays is different. Like, there are so many things that you can do, so many things that you can accomplish, and so many different types of jobs that a lot of times you don't even know about those things until you get to school and start taking random classes. And then you're like, wow, I like this, I don't like this, I like that. And then you're able to narrow it down. Life isn't so cookie cutter. It isn't basic like that. Like, if it was, then we wouldn't have all these different things. We wouldn't have been able to accomplish that, because there's so many different areas that we need people in, that if you just picked, one of the 5 basic jobs growing up, then it's like we'd be missing, half the things that we have nowadays. So I think it's just important to be able to figure out, like you said, find your own path. Don't follow in the footsteps of somebody else, because that's boring. And most of the time, you're just trying to copy other people. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to enjoy what you're doing, because you're constantly living somebody else's life rather than your own. Just live your own life and be happy with that, and find your path and figure out what you want to do and do it.
Yeah. But when I was in college, a professor told me, yeah, we need plumbers, we need electricians too. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Then why am I here listening to you? Let me just leave here and become a plumber. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, again, you just have to find your own way.
Right.
You have to find your own path in life. Like, no one can tell you, for lack of a better term, tell you what to do. Unless someone is an expert at something, and they could probably help you. But some people, they did something a certain way, therefore you have to do it. You know what I mean? Like, again, going back to, you have to find your own path. Yeah. But I want to talk about some of Ricky Cumbas's events that you did. You had 2 big ones. You had one September 14th, and you had one last year, right?
Yes.
So what have you learned from putting these events together, and what sort of relationships are important to foster in order to get these things off the ground?
So we really just wanted to focus on building relationships with the local organizations in the town, because they're the ones who can really make or break you. And I know that sounds almost like fake, but there's a lot of great people. So I'm really glad we did that. We became really close with the Morris County Sheriff, Sheriff Gannon, who is incredible. Like, he is all about mental health and addiction and combating addiction and all of that. So he's really awesome. Really grateful for his help. So going off that, it's really important to kind of utilize those relationships with different town officials. Show that you're interested. Like, if you see, he created this Hope One. It's an old SWAT van, and he transformed that into Hope One, a mobile recovery unit for those struggling with addiction. And so they go out and they train people in Narcan usage, which Narcan, it kind of, it's a drug that kind of reverts people when they overdose on opioids. So it's really, awesome, incredible drug, whatever. And so he's all about combating the addiction and mental health crisis in Morris County. So again, he's been a huge help. So really focus on those local organizations and those local officials that have similar interests as you. And they're more than willing to help because you help them and they help you. It's very...
Give and take?
Exactly. Thank you. Very give and take. So one thing that we learned, though, is we are looking to move it to a better location. So location is key. That's always really important. The location that we had, it's a great big area, and that's cool and all, but it's a little bit off the beaten path. So one thing we've struggled with is just kind of growing the event as far as getting different people to come and visit. So our friends and family has always been very supportive, and we did have a decent amount of visitors. We hit over 120 the first year and all that, which was really awesome. But you want to make it easier for people to get to and know about. But utilize those local relationships, because even with Sheriff Gannon, we've been close with him for, I think we first met him at our first event, so September of 2018. And he was always like, whatever you guys need, we are here to help you with. And again, going back to that kind of feeling like, oh, I don't want to use people, we just kind of were like, thank you so much. But we didn't reach out as much. Utilize those local resources, utilize those local relationships, because he's all about helping people. And him and Assemblyman Bucco, his friend, who's also been a huge resource, they're all about helping us. And they're like, let's get legislation going. Let's get stuff going. Let's get stuff in the town. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So amazing. They're when we think of government officials, sometimes you think of, especially at the national, the federal level, you think of they're so disengaged.
Up top. That's a fact.
When you think about it, they're so focused on kind of just continuing their career that they seem to be very disengaged. But
career politicians.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Career politicians. And so we need to realize there are local government officials that are willing to help, not just because the election is coming up, not just because they want to get voted back into office, but because they're in office in a small town because chances are they have a connection to that town and they want to make a difference in that town. So utilize that. Go out, interact with them, write them letters, meet with coffee. We're scheduling a call with Sheriff Gannon, meet with them, and they are more than willing to help you, because as long as you have, the same types of goals in mind, the same mental health goal, whatever it may be, but don't be afraid to, utilize those relationships. That's so important.
You know what? I think that's so important because I remember in college, I had this professor. I took this African American studies class. Professor's name was Jermaine Archer. He was amazing. This was the first week of class. He was like, guys, there's an election coming up, right? I'm like, what? He was telling us about the local Long Island politicians. I'm like, I never thought of it that way, because these people are so important, because the things that they do affect you directly in your community.
Exactly.
The president and all those people, they affect the country as a whole. It's going to affect you, but it's not going to have an immediate direct effect on you and where you're living.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? The local politicians can fix the potholes I live in Long Island, so they could fix potholes on Sunrise Highway. If your car gets broken into like mine was, they could probably, help out with that, or your local schooling, your taxes, etc. Putting together events like what you did. But you know what? I do have to critique some of my local politicians because there's been some politicians, it's been happening recently, that want to campaign of sorts on the platform of the Long Island Railroad at 6:45 in the morning look, I'm not thinking about nothing besides getting to work at 6:45 in the morning. I'm not thinking about your policies. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about getting to work. I think if local politicians want to get to know the community, host some events or whatever. Do something where you're interacting with your community, not like, just handing us a flyer at 6:45 while my train to Penn Station is about to come. Get out of here. I don't know.
Exactly.
So what kind of like permits do you need for something like that? Or maybe like, because you had a relationship with the kind of law enforcement and government, and they kind of probably help with that stuff, right?
Yeah, they definitely can. So because we want to move locations, we want to be in a little bit more of a populated area. We're trying to, talk to them about how we can go about doing that, the safest route and all that. But as far as our past 2 events, they didn't really play a role in the permit. So what you have to do is you kind of go onto your town's website, or your township, whatever it is, your town's website. And we went to like Parks and Rec, that kind of area. And we figured out what application we needed to apply for in order to put the park that we wanted on hold. And ultimately, I'm trying to think, once you apply, it was kind of like it goes through, gets voted by the town and all that. And if the committee votes it through, then you're good to go. And they'll reserve the park for you. As far as permits and stuff, we had food there, so we did need the township, health person to come in and make sure everything was good. So we got our permit for the food ahead of time, and then they had to come in and kind of approve the day of to make sure it was all laid out accordingly, all the food and stuff, because you have to have, if it's cold food, you got to have coolers, and if it's hot food, you have to have it heated up to a certain degree, all that stuff to make sure people don't get sick, of course. And so one thing that we had actually learned from the first year to the second year was towns don't really care what you're doing all the time. So it's like, oh, okay, you're reserved from, 8 to 5. That's fine. Okay, next person has the reservation from 5 to wherever. So it's like the first year we basically got kicked off the field. Like we had it reserved till, not kicked off. We were cleaning up and we were clearing out, but there was like, the little like football league, whatever it was, little kids coming in playing a game, and like the coaches or parents, they're getting annoyed. But I was like, listen, like we reserved this field. We didn't know that they would book people right after us. So the year after, this past year, we were like, okay, that's cool. We're gonna reserve it literally from like 8 to 5, so nobody could take the field. We ended up having an issue with a coach coming in and getting aggravated with us because he had the field next to us, and then he wanted to come on ours because it was better. And I was like, listen, like, because I knew the rules, I was like, I understand, and we're on our way out, so you're more than welcome to use the field. However, I want you to know that we did book it until 5 p.m. because of the issue we had last year. And, we'll hurry up as best we can, but you're not going to kick us off. The first year, it was our first year, we were so nervous. We're like, oh my God, we got to get out of here, whatever. This year, like, each year you learn something new. And so we were like, you know what? We know that what we did was fine and right, and that's it. So permits aren't too crazy. You just have to, the best way to figure it all out is just to go to the town's website. And, a lot of times the rules are all listed, but make sure you read all the rules. So like the, fine print, a lot of times we skip through it. Like this is a case where you need to read all of it. And another thing we had to have was like up to $1 million of coverage in insurance. So that's easy. We got our insurance for cheap. We found an online insurance company based out of California that specializes in this kind of, event insurance and that kind of thing. And it was a couple $100, but that was what we needed in order to book the park, and that was fine. So some companies will try and screw you over and charge you a whole ton of money, but it's not as scary as it sounds. Just read the rules and don't be afraid to Google something if you don't know the answer to it, because, there's ways to either not get around things, but do things. There's ways to make things happen even if you don't have a ton of money, behind you. So, yeah.
What are some of the things that happened during your event? Like what sort of activities did you have?
So basically the best way to describe our event, so it was our Mental Health and Wellness Expo. So what we did was we contacted, our whole goal is to bridge the gap between people that are suffering and resources available, because we act as a compass and kind of point people in the right direction to the resources.
I like that.
Yes. So we're just like a resource hub. And what we wanted to do was highlight the local resources and even national resources with the local chapters. So we reached out to a bunch of local organizations in order to kind of broaden the scope and create a bigger demographic. We decided to make it a mental health and wellness expo because our generation is all about wellness, but you put mental health in there and people kind of steer clear of it. So we wanted to make it more accommodating to everybody. So what we did was we contacted local organizations. We contacted MHA, Mental Health Association of Essex and Morris. We contacted the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We contacted, this year we had 1-800-GAMBLERS. So just kind of a whole range of people. We reached out to them and we said, hey, this is what we're doing. This is our goal. Would you be interested? And a lot of people were. So they came. And then we also had a lot of local businesses. So gyms.
Amazing.
We had, thank you. So we had gyms. We had kind of there's places in Morristown where they sell like nutritional supplements, they sell healthy food, that kind of thing. So we had all those organizations there. My mom went, she's a travel agent, and she kind of represented wellness travel, because there are a lot of resorts around the world that are kind of focused on just kind of the spa and which is almost like, it's like a mental health day. And so it's focused on relaxation and wellness and all of that. So, and rejuvenation. So she was there for that. Just tried to get a bunch of different things. And we also had like face painting involved, so that, for the kids that showed up, that kind of thing. And basically what we did was we had a big open field and we lined the outside of the field. It was like a rectangle. We lined the outside with all the different vendors that were there. And then we had a main stage at one end of the field. And there was a DJ. And then throughout the day, people were able to walk around and look at all the vendors. And there was different things that they could participate in. And then every 15-30 minutes, we had something going on the main stage to keep people kind of entertained. So we had, we spoke about Ricky's Compass, and then we had different speakers come up. We also had kind of like personal trainers and stuff come and do short, quick workouts, and just kind of to show people like different things to kind of keep you going and keep you healthy on an all-around level. So mentally, physically, spiritually, all of that. So speakers and just different activities to engage people. We actually had a counselor there this year who was incredible. So she had a booth set up at the other end so people could kind of come in and talk to her and experience what it's like to talk to a counselor without that judgment and without having to pay either. So kind of get a taste for that. It was a free event. And yeah, we just encourage people to just kind of come and go as they please, check out all the vendors, see what's available locally to them. Look at the local resources that are there for, whatever you may struggle with. We had therapy dogs there this year, which was really cool. And then they just got to participate, and there were fun activities for them to do by the stage. So there was yoga, workouts, all that stuff to just kind of show like there's different outlets for you. And there's also different resources available to help you work through anything that you're struggling with. So it was just all around, it was a really good event. And then, of course, Sheriff Gannon, he was there. He spoke a little bit. We had Hope One there, so people got trained in Narcan usage. So, which was really cool. I think last year we had like 28 people get trained in Narcan usage, which was the most that Hope One has trained in one day.
Wow.
Which was really cool. And then they gave out like little packets of Narcan because Morris County has a major opioid epidemic going on. Like there's a lot of people overdosing a lot in high school, around the clock. So it was really cool to be able to incorporate that as well.
Did you do the thing that a lot of community events do? Like they take time to read up all the sponsors of the event?
So coming from my promotions background, I tried to kind of thank everybody every so often. So like in between, we would make it so that, if there was a 15-minute activity going on, we'd give people about 10 minutes in between each activity. So we could set up and they could also walk around to the vendor. So in that time frame, I would try and go up and be like, thank you every so often. I didn't like have one list where it was like, I took out 10 minutes right then and there to read off every name. But every so often, I'd thank everybody that was there and stuff like that. So made sure to announce their names, but didn't like, hold on, let me take out my list and read off 25 vendors' names at once. So, yeah.
I've seen that before.
Oh, I know. It's a lot.
I had a friend play an event on Long Island a couple of years ago. It wasn't my event. It just I saw it happen. And I swear, in between sets, they would get up and just read all the sponsors for like a good 5-10 minutes. It was nauseating because when you do a certain thing like that, halfway through, we don't even care.
Right.
We don't care. I'm out getting a hot dog or somewhere. So if any like organization that you may have named have, if it was important, I don't care because you're just in a monotone voice. We had to think so-and-so. I'm like, forget it. I'm tuned out. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that, you didn't do that kind of thing. You know what I mean? That stuff is important, but I think it needs to be sprinkled out in doses
100%.
that you're not just overwhelming people with information and whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like when you listen to radio, you hear 10-minute spot block. It's like, what the fuck? Tune out. You know what I mean? I'd rather listen to silence than hear a Geico commercial. You know what I mean?
Right.
Again, I don't know. But
No,
so where does Ricky Compass go from here? What's the next step?
So right now we're planning a walk for Mental Health Month. Mental Health Awareness Month is May. So we're planning a walk with one of our friends who started an organization in honor of her son, the Darren Memorial Foundation. We're planning a walk probably in Morristown for that. And it's more just to kind of raise awareness, similar like we'll be walking through Morristown, showing off like our shirts, whatever, so other people can see. And then we're going to be heading back to a park where, there's going to be resources set up and everything. So that's next on our agenda. Again, we also want to kick off or do more of Diagnosed But Not Defined on our YouTube series. And we also want to host a panel so that we can get local resources, local officers, whatever, organizations, to be able to speak to parents and kids in the area, and kind of like a town hall type thing where people can ask the questions that maybe we can't answer, but other individuals can. And that would be really awesome to host at the high school. So we're in the works for that, and then, continue with our annual Mental Health and Wellness Expo. But we just want to keep getting the word out. We just want to keep giving individuals an area for them to feel safe to come and talk to, a place for them to come and chat, and also just so that we can, again, bridge the gap and be that resource hub that people need. But we're also open to ideas to figure out how to kind of branch out and figure out what's next. Around the holidays, we do different donation drives. We've been focusing on Daytop, which Daytop focuses on, it's like younger kids can go there and they stay there. And it's a facility where, they go through school and all that. But a lot of the times these kids are struggling with like addiction issues and stuff. But most of them, it stems from some type of mental health issue. So we've been doing that the past couple of years. We've been donating clothes and books and games and that kind of thing for them. So just continue with that. But we're always open for ideas on figuring out how to branch out and continue to get the word about the importance of mental health out there. And, of course, how to shatter the stigma.
Great. So I can't let you leave here without talking about, this is a music-centric podcast, generally speaking.
Of course.
I want to know what you're listening to now and what you generally listen to.
It's funny that you said that because on the way over, I was listening to my iPod. I haven't listened to an iPod in years. I was listening to my phone. I was listening to Spotify. And it always depends on the mood I'm in. And I had a feeling you'd talk about music. So, on the way over, I was listening to, there were a couple songs that I had on repeat when Ricky had passed away. And so I was just like, let me just listen to them, whatever. So Tori Kelly is great. And don't make fun of me, but Linkin Park.
Mm-hmm.
So because the main singer, Chester
Yes.
Bennington, he passed away. He died by suicide. And there was a song that he had released, I think, shortly before. And it was like One More Light. I don't know if you've heard it, but it was so good. And it was kind of, he talked about, so his friend, the leads, Chris Cornell, that's who it was.
Yeah, Soundgarden.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. So when Chris Cornell died, Chester Bennington, he obviously struggled as well. And so he released this One More Light song, and it was reflecting on Chris Cornell. And it was like right around the time Ricky died, and I had that listening. I was listening to that on repeat, literally just driving around in my car, blast it, and like cry.
Oh, of course.
But it was so good. So I was listening to that on the way over. So I have like 2 main playlists that I listen to, and that would fall under like my chill playlist. And then I also have like my country playlist. It depends on the mood I'm in. It depends on the time of year and all that. But like I can listen to anything from like Frank Sinatra, who I adore, to Chase Rice, to Thomas Rhett, to, you know, Linkin Park. Depends on my mood. Yeah, I'm like all over the place. I can never tie it down. I used to drive my brother around, and he would blast like old school rap. I would have like D12 on when I'd be working out. That was like, that was my thing. I'd put my D12 Spotify station on, and just when I actually went to the gym, that would be playing. But yeah, it was my little motivator. So yeah, I'm all over the place with my music.
Well, when we're talking about like mental health and music, speaking of Chris Cornell, about, let's see, almost 30 years ago, he was in a band called Mother Love Bone, right? And the singer of that group, I think it was a singer of the group, Andrew Wood, he passed away. I think he died of an overdose. Wow. And Chris was really close with him. Him and Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam, very, very close together. So in tribute to him, they did an album they formed a group called, was it Temple of the Dog? And they put out an album in 1992, 91? 92. I forgot the year. I think it was 91. But it's a beautiful album because all the songs are like very, you know, they're sad, they're a little tragic, but they're extremely gorgeous because Chris Cornell has an amazing voice, and a lot of his lyrics are like powerful. And a lot of those Seattle bands from the early 90s kind of touch upon that because Seattle's very dreary. It's wet, it's gross, it rains a lot, so that's very depressing. It really is. You're not getting a lot of vitamin D.
Yeah,
and
that's the thing.
It's just kind of full circle because when, you know, hearing like Chris tribute his passing friend, and then when I go back and listen to that album after he passed, it's like, wow, it's like doubly depressing, but like equally as beautiful because he was tributing, you know, someone, and listening to the songs after he passed is like, wow, you know what I mean? You know, I can't put into words of the feeling. And Alice in Chains too. I don't know if you're familiar with that group. You know, the same crew of bands from, you know, of the early grunge period, like Nirvana, Soundgarden, all that stuff.
My brother loves that.
Yeah, I love that stuff too. Lane Staley had a struggle with depression and addiction, and when I listen to his music, it's like, this is the saddest music you'll ever hear is Alice in Chains, period. In my opinion, unbelievably sad music, but gorgeous stuff. But it's very, very melodic, but so depressing. But like, you know, you see like he's letting out his pain in the music, and I think that's just, you know, that's my musical rant for the day.
No, absolutely.
But,
a lot of people, they have, like, a lot of artists, that's their outlet, is their music. But you also have to be careful as a listener of what you're taking in. Because, like, it's great, go through those periods. I went through that period. I blasted Linkin Park, you know, crying in my car, whatever. But you also have to make sure you have those moments where you kind of, okay, on to the next chapter, on to the next song. And make sure you don't kind of marinate in it too long, because it can play an effect on your own emotions as well.
Absolutely. You know, sometimes, you know, I put on, you know, some Jay-Z. It's very motivating. You know, he has a song on his new album called Family Feud, and it's about his life now and him and his wife, the opening line of the song is Super Bowl goals. My wife in the crib feeding my kids liquid gold. I think that's just amazing because it's just like we have aspirations to be the top of the top. We have unlimited aspirations. And my wife is home with our beautiful children. This is my family is most important to me. This is my life. I think that's amazing. I love that. I strive for that idea. You know what I mean? To find purpose, in the simple things in life, like having family, close friends, keeping a circle small,
Absolutely.
So, Alexis, I want to thank you so much for sharing the Ricky Compass story here on My Little Underground. So where can people follow Ricky's Compass on socials?
So if you search for us, our Instagram and our Twitter is at Ricky's Compass CP. So CP standing for Community Project, because that was our original goal. Didn't think we'd be this big. And then just, Facebook.com/Ricky's Compass. And our website is rickyscompass.org. RICKYS. Compass, .org. And then there you can always email us, and it's support@rickyscompass.org. So, we're all over social. Anywhere you can find us, we're there.
Yeah. Alexis Thomas, I'm Peter A. It's My Little Underground level 39. Please subscribe anywhere you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get them. I'm there. All right? I'm on Twitter, Facebook, wherever, Instagram. It's Peter_A. Follow the show as well at MLU Pod. Alexis, thanks so much for coming out again.
Thank you.
We're out. I'm hungry.